Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the Colonists, which is a 1 to 4 player game, a fairly epic Euro game that you can play over 4 eras that can last many hours. I haven't played all 4, but I've heard that they can, all 4 put together can last 8 to 12 hours. Not all in one sitting, of course, if you don't want to, because you can play the first era and then take photos of your board and put it away and then bring it back out for another era later. Or you can sit down and do more than one in a row. The Colonist has a lot of different interesting mechanisms going on. I'm going to focus on, obviously, my favorite, which is a puzzling mechanism that really makes me think in interesting ways. In the Colonist, you take essentially worker placement actions. So there are these buildings on the board that you are placing workers on, and really it's worker movement. So a worker will start on a building and then you'll move it to a new building and then to another building and to another building. You get to do that 3 times on your turn. And the movement part is really important because, and this is the key to this rule, you have to take the action on the building you move to. So unless we play the rules wrong, you never know if that happens with these videos, but I'm pretty sure that you have to take the action on the building you move to. So say there's a building that's a few spaces away, a few buildings away, that you really want to use. You have to map your way over there to figure out, okay, how can I get to that building, because I have to take all these actions along the way. I have to pay things and get benefits along the way. And this can be fascinating. At times it can be frustrating, but actually I found that it's in a good way. So like in the game that I played, one of the buildings was, it was on the outside of this whole lump of buildings, this village, this area, and you could only get to it if you went through 2 buildings that had really high costs. So you had to pay a pretty high cost just to get to this other building that you wanted to use. And then you can always get out. There's an easy way to get out of any area. You can warp across the board to these markets. You can always go to the market. But it created this really interesting puzzle of trying to get to this one action that I really wanted, and I had to puzzle out how to get all the resources to actually take the actions that were blocking that action that I wanted to get to because of the movement mechanism. This is also interesting. Another layer to it is that at the beginning of every round, or maybe at the end of every round, one of the players, the first player, gets to decide where 3 new buildings go on the board. And so, because of this spatial element, you can position buildings in a way that really benefits you and may make it fairly difficult for other players to get to them. So you might put one that's right near you. You might put it along a path that you need to go through. So maybe you need wood and stone or wood and brick to use a building. You might go wood, brick, and then that building that you need. So you can use a straight path to get there. So it gives a pretty important position to the player who's actually putting those buildings around the table, and it gives them an advantage. So yeah, I really like this worker movement mechanism where you have to use the building that you go to. Again, it can be frustrating at times, but I think the benefits of it outweigh the frustration in that it does create a really unique puzzle to figure out how you can actually use all these buildings so that you can use, especially on the exterior, to use the buildings on the exterior that you have to go through other buildings to get to. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Colonist if you've played it and you have a favorite mechanism in the game, or if you have a Euro game in particular that has a movement system like this, where you're moving workers from one space to another, not just placing them and removing them, but actually moving them around the board. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that in the comments as well. Thanks.